Okay, so have you ever posted something online and then instantly regretted it?
Yeah.
Like maybe it was a funny comment at the time, but then later you're like, "Oh no, why did I share that with the entire internet?"
Uh-huh. Yeah, the internet, uh, it definitely never forgets, does it? Like an elephant, it just remembers everything.
Right. And that's kind of what we're going to be diving into today, that whole idea of digital footprints, what they are, why they matter, and how we can maybe be a little more mindful about what we're leaving behind in the digital world.
And it's not just about those like embarrassing posts from our past or anything, I mean, those are definitely part of it. But our digital footprints, they really shape how other people see us, like potential employers or new friends or really anyone who like Googles you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually read a story recently about this woman who was offered her dream job, but then they rescinded the offer because they found some controversial tweets she had made years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, definitely. And, our sources, they actually define a digital footprint as like all the information about a person that exists online because of their, online activity. So that's like social media posts, comments, your search history, online purchases, even things like your IP address. It's a lot more than you might think.
Wow. That's actually kind of scary when you think about it. Like all that information is just out there floating around in the digital ether.
Yeah, it is. And that's why it's important to be like aware of it and, take some steps to manage it.
Okay, so besides avoiding those cringe-worthy moments from our past, why should we really care about this? Like, what's the big deal?
Well, there's a few reasons. First of all, it's about perception management. Like what people find online about you, it could really affect what they think of you.
Hmm.
And that can impact like job opportunities, relationships, all sorts of things.
Okay, so it's not just about keeping our online reputations clean. It's actually about shaping how others perceive us.
Right. And it's not just about like avoiding negative perceptions either.
Yeah.
Like your digital footprint, it can also be a really good thing. You can show off your skills, your interests, your personality, and that can open up all sorts of opportunities for you.
So it's like a double-edged sword. It can work for you or against you. It all depends on how you manage it.
Exactly. And one of the main things that our sources talk about is that we have more control over our digital footprints than we might realize. It's not about like disappearing from the internet completely, but more about making conscious choices about what we share and how we present ourselves online.
One of the sources actually made this really interesting comparison. They said that our online presence is kind of like a curated museum exhibit. Like we choose what artifacts to display, how to arrange them, and what story we want them to tell about us. But the question is it really an accurate representation of who we are? Or just like this polished version that we want the world to see?
That is a great question. And I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with,
Yeah.
because it's so easy to get caught up in this pressure to present this perfect version of ourselves online.
Totally. It's like we're all walking around with these invisible curators judging our every move, every post, every comment. Like, are we
Yeah.
witty enough? Are we stylish enough? Are we living our best lives enough?
Yeah, and all that pressure to perform for this like unseen audience, it can lead to a lot of anxiety and make you feel disconnected from your, real self. We start hiding parts of ourselves or exaggerating other parts, and we end up feeling like we're not good enough.
So, how do we find that balance? How do we show our best selves online without creating this completely fake persona? Is there even a way to manage this anxiety and just be more comfortable with who we are, both online and offline?
Well, one thing that's become pretty popular is the idea of a digital detox.
Right. Like taking a break from all the notifications and the pressure to post and the constant scrolling. I know I've definitely had moments where I just wanted to check my phone in a lake and just disconnect from it all. But honestly, is that even realistic these days? Like in today's world, can we really just unplug completely? And is that even the answer?
Yeah, those are good questions. And our sources actually have some interesting thoughts on this. So while like completely escaping the internet might sound amazing, it's probably not very practical for most of us. Our sources actually suggest a different approach. It's not about going off the grid entirely, but more about making, conscious choices about how we use technology and manage our online presence.
Okay, so instead of running away from the internet, we need to learn how to navigate it in a more mindful way.
Exactly. It's about taking control of our digital footprints and using them to our advantage. And our sources actually give some really practical tips on how to do this. Like they talk about the importance of auditing your social media profiles, paying attention to your privacy settings, and really thinking before you post anything.
So it's less about hiding and more about curating, being intentional about what we share and how we present ourselves.
Right. And it's not just about social media either. It's about being aware of all the ways we leave digital footprints, from our online shopping to the websites we visit to the information we share on like forms and applications.
So it's like a whole, holistic approach to managing our online presence. But what about all those past mistakes, Like those embarrassing posts we wish we could just erase from the internet forever. Is there any way to really escape the internet's memory? Can we actually, start fresh?
That's a question that a lot of people ask, and one that our sources definitely wrestle with.
I bet there's no easy answer, is there?
You're right, there isn't. While the sources do offer some tips for like managing your online presence and minimizing the damage from past posts, they also acknowledge that the internet, it really does have a long memory, like completely erasing our digital past. It's usually really hard, if not impossible.
So instead of trying to erase the past, maybe it's more about, owning it. But how do we do that when there's so much pressure to present this perfect, polished online persona? It seems kind of contradictory.
It is a really complex issue, and the sources don't offer any like easy solutions. But they do encourage us to think about the possibility that owning our past, even the messy parts, might be more powerful than trying to hide it. I
Hmm.
mean, all of our experiences, good and bad, they shape who we are.
That's an interesting thought. Like our imperfections, our digital scars, they could actually be a source of strength instead of shame. It's definitely something I haven't really considered before. It seems like this whole idea of digital footprints brings up some pretty deep questions about identity and how we see ourselves. Like, how does our online life affect our offline identity? Are we even the same person in both worlds? Or have these digital personas taken on a life of their own? And should we even try to be the same person in both places?
Those are great questions, and we're definitely going to explore those more as we keep going with this deep dive. But for now, the sources actually have a really thought-provoking question for us to consider. If the internet didn't exist, how would you define yourself?
Wow, that really makes you think. Without all the filters and the likes and the carefully crafted posts, who are we at our core? It's like hitting the reset button on how we see ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the point. It forces us to really think about who we are beyond the screen. What defines us when we strip away all the digital layers? And how does that real self connect to the persona we present online?
There's definitely a lot to unpack there, and I'm really curious to dig into those questions more. But for now, I think we've laid a pretty good foundation for understanding this whole idea of digital footprints. It's more than just a bunch of data, it's a reflection of who we are, who we want to be, and how we choose to show ourselves to the world.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating question, isn't it? Like, if the internet just suddenly, poof, disappeared, how would we even describe ourselves? Without all those likes and comments, would we even recognize who we are?
Yeah, it's almost like we've let these online platforms kind of define a part of us.
Yeah.
We create these online personas, we curate our experiences, and then we judge how worthy we are based on how people react. It makes you wonder, how much of how we see ourselves is really just based on what other people think.
That's so true. And, our sources, they actually talk about how this constant online feedback loop can really mess with us psychologically. Like there was this study that showed how engaging on social media can trigger like a release of dopamine, that
Hmm.
feel-good hormone. And that basically makes us want to keep seeking out that validation from others.
So it's like we're literally getting addicted to all those likes and comments. No wonder it's so hard to resist checking social media all the time. It's like a slot machine. You're always hoping for that next hit of validation.
Exactly. And that can have some pretty serious consequences.
Ah.
Like it can lead to anxiety, depression, and just a really messed up sense of self-worth. We start comparing our lives to these like perfectly curated highlight reels that we see online. And of course, we always feel like we're coming up short.
It's like comparing our blooper reels to everyone else's perfectly edited movie trailer.
Right.
Right. We forget that everyone has their struggles, their insecurities, their not so glamorous moments. Totally. And one of the biggest takeaways from our sources is that we need to develop what they call media literacy skills. Basically, it means learning to really think critically about the stuff we see online. Understanding why that content is being shown to us and recognizing that what we see on social media is often a very filtered and distorted version of reality.
So it's about being more like a savvy consumer of online content
Right.
and not just believing everything we see and recognizing that there's usually a lot more to the story than what's being presented.
Exactly. It's about having a healthy skepticism towards both the stuff we see online and the stories that we're telling ourselves. You know,
So we need to be careful about both the stories that we're telling ourselves and the stories that we're buying into from other people. It's about be more intentional about how we interact with the online world, and remembering that it's just one part of our lives,
Yeah.
not the whole thing, right? And that brings us to another really important idea that our sources talk about: owning our stories, both online and offline. Our digital footprints, even though they might have some moments we'd rather forget, are ultimately part of our narrative. They tell the story of who we're becoming, and who we want to be.
It's kind of like thinking of our online presence as this constantly evolving autobiography. We can choose to focus on the chapters we're proud of, learn from the ones we'd rather rewrite, and approach the future chapters with more intention and authenticity.
I love that analogy. It really shows how much power we have in shaping our digital stories. We might not be able to control every single thing about our online presence, but we can choose how we respond to it, how we learn from it, and how we use it to tell our story.
And that's when it starts to feel a little bit more empowering, right? We're not just helpless victims of the internet's all-seeing eye. We can actually take control of the story, reclaim it, and use our online presence to do something good.
Exactly. And the sources actually give us some practical advice on how to do that. They talk about being proactive in managing your online reputation, engaging in meaningful conversations, and using your platform to amplify voices and causes that you believe in.
So it's about shifting from this defensive mindset of trying to hide our flaws to a more proactive approach where we're using our digital footprints to make a positive impact.
Absolutely. And this all connects back to the question we asked before. If the internet didn't exist, how would you define yourself? The answer to that question can actually help guide how you present yourself online and how you use your digital footprint to create a meaningful and authentic online presence.
So it's about making sure our online and offline selves are aligned, being true to our values, and using our digital platforms to express who we really are and connect with people in a genuine way. But how do we avoid all the potential pitfalls? Like, how do we balance wanting privacy with needing to be present online? And how do we protect ourselves from the negative stuff while still taking advantage of the good stuff?
Those are all great questions, and it's stuff that we're going to dig into more in the last part of our deep dive.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. But for now, I think we've gotten a much better understanding of just how complex this whole digital footprint thing is and how much it can affect our lives.
Definitely. We've seen how it's not just a bunch of data, but it's a reflection of the choices we make, our experiences, and ultimately our stories.
And even though we might not have complete control over every single thing that's out there about us online, we do have the power to shape the narrative, to learn from our mistakes, and to use our digital footprints to create a more genuine and meaningful online experience.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like owning our stories online and being careful about the digital trails we leave behind. But let's get down to brass tacks. What can we actually do to like manage our digital footprints? Well, our sources actually give us a bunch of practical tips. It's not just about deleting old posts or anything. One important thing is to like regularly audit your online presence. Like go through your social media profiles, check your privacy settings, and even Google yourself to see what information is out there about you.
Yeah, I definitely need to do that more often. I've kind of been in this like set it and forget it mode with my online accounts. But it sounds like it's a good idea to revisit those settings and make sure I'm okay with what people can find about me.
Definitely. And while you're doing that, you might also want to think about creating a more professional online presence. Something that highlights your skills and accomplishments. That could be a LinkedIn profile or a personal website or even just a curated portfolio of your work.
So instead of just trying to hide from the internet, we can use it to build a positive and professional image.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and shaping the narrative instead of just reacting to things. The sources also talk a lot about being mindful of what you share online, both in terms of the content itself and the platforms you're using.
So like thinking before you post, choosing the right platform for your message, and being aware of how far your message could spread and how long it could stay out there.
Right. And when it comes to past content that you maybe regret, there are a few things you can try. You might not always be able to delete it completely, but you can reach out to website owners or social media platforms and ask them to remove it. You can also try to bury unwanted content by creating new, positive content that will push the older stuff down in search results.
So it's not just about erasing the past, but also about building a present and future online presence that shows who you are now.
Exactly. And remember, our digital footprints, they're always changing. They show how we grow, change, and adapt over time. It's okay to have made mistakes or to have had different opinions in the past. The important thing is to recognize that evolution and use our online presence now to show who we are today.
The sources also mentioned being careful about the information we share on forms and applications. It's easy to forget about those things, but they can actually become part of our digital footprint too.
Yeah, that's a good point. We often just fill out online forms without really thinking about where that information is going. We should be more aware of the data we're sharing and make sure we're comfortable with how it might be used.
So it's about taking a more active role in managing our digital lives, being aware of the choices we make, and taking steps to protect our privacy and our online reputation.
Exactly. And this all comes back to the idea of agency and ownership that we've been talking about this whole time. The internet might have a long memory, but we have the power to shape our own narratives and use our digital footprints to tell a story that reflects our values, our goals, and our true selves.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a much better grasp on this whole digital footprint thing and how to manage my online presence better.
I'm glad to hear that. Just remember, it's not about being perfect online. It's about being authentic, being intentional, and being mindful of the digital trails we leave behind.
Well said. And as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. If your digital footprint could talk, what story would you want it to tell? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind in the vast world of the internet? Thanks for joining us on this journey as we explored the fascinating and always changing world of digital footprints.